Hi, my name is Andy Large. I'm a professor of river science in the School of Geography, Politics and Sociology. Normal. That's the simple word. Crikey, there's lots of those. They range from grant applications, papers rejected. Every time you go for promotion, in academia it's a strange one because you've got to put yourself out there, you've got to make the case for you. Nobody taps you on the shoulder and says, you've been doing a great job, how about a pay rise? You've got to make the argument for it, and it's quite a brutal process in many cases. And the higher up you go, the more external sort of review you need to put yourself under, and that tends to be that, again, the higher up you go, the more sort of objective and international it becomes, and you're being reviewed by people who don't even know you at times. So that's a really sort of strange one. And so every time I've gone for promotion at Newcastle, I've failed. I've been turned back, and you have to pick yourself up, dust yourself down, take the feedback. You're doing really well in all aspects, but you need to be better in some, and then you've got to pick out the kernels of truth in that and push yourself forward. You take the good things from it. There's always something good. You wouldn't have submitted a grant, for example, if you didn't believe in it. I'm a great believer in banking, putting things aside. As the saying goes, those who've seen fallen leaves haven't seen them dance in the wind. So there's always something to take from a grant application. You can go two ways. You can either internalize it and then sort of go away with your shoulders drooping and think you're a bad person, but that's not a good idea in life. You're always surrounded by colleagues going through the same process, and typically it does happen to them, and so the best thing is to put yourself out there and actually talk to people, and you'll soon find that people have a sort of similar story in life than you. You've always got to look back at reviewers' comments. I think nobody really writes a review with the sort of intention of being like the theatre critic in the film, where they excoriate something and really take it apart. A reviewer will always sort of be asked to look for the strengths in something as well as the weaknesses. Trying to surround yourself with people who are determined to do better at the next attempt. Don't go back into the shell. And everybody experiences failure in life, and sometimes with younger members of teams it's important to sort of get that message across to them that this is normal. This is part of a sort of iterative process, that there's no academic on the planet who's gone through a checkered career with everything just sailing through, Nobel Prizes, etc. Those top people in academia have had many failures in their past, and so everybody's the same. Has ever tried, ever failed? No matter. Try again, fail better. The bigger the grant, the more support you might get from faculty, but the other message I would get out there is that Newcastle's extremely good at trying to self-fund and encourage success in colleagues. Certainly in my faculty in HAS, there's a really good sort of mechanism for pump priming grants, for research drop-in sessions, for engaging with professional support colleagues. There's always advice for these matters, which then makes the sort of creating the space for thinking of your idea easier. I'm working on a grant proposal just at the moment where I'm taking bits of the data management plan of a successful grant, which then went into an unsuccessful grant and was reworked as that. I'm taking that for a third time to make the writing process easier. I think we've a really good system here at Newcastle. You just have to put yourself out there and go for it and really engage with professional support colleagues. If you get a grant submitted, it's not a failure. It's an actual success of actually getting people together around a shared objective, pulling together all the sort of gubbins around the bid, all of the sort of fluff and the finances, just getting grants across the line. is a success. It means you've engaged with people in the university, you've gone to the right people to talk about finances at the right time, you've sort of hit all the deadlines. You've, in many cases, for example, with the Living Deltas Hub, there was an internal process to get the grant approved internally, then there was an expression of interest, then there was a call for a full bid, then there was a chop off of half of those for interview. 24 groups went to London. And at that point I was congratulated by my head of school, said, well done for getting through to the last, to the interview stage. And I said, well, it's not a success yet. At that point I felt that failure would be, the end of everything, I suppose. But, and I didn't want to sort of think of just getting to the final as being a success, but it is, in that sense. It really means that you've achieved something to get that far. My key thing is always saying to myself, it doesn't make you a worse person. I think that's my sort of one motto. And then with that I just sort of pick my shoulders up and I walk off and look for the next thing. But that's the key message. It doesn't make you a worse person. People think, oh, I'm a failure. It's not that. To put yourself out there and to get yourself in the position where you can fail is a success. And that's what makes you a good person. I'd emphasise to them that they're not being unsuccessful, that it's all part of life's rich tapestry. So I think that sort of is really sort of, particularly for younger people like students, the idea that I need to do one. I've got to have this because you don't. You just need to learn from your previous assessment, take the good things and make the next one better. And that way you will ultimately get to the point where you will maximize your potential. And if your potential's a 2-2, that's the way it is. But your university degree doesn't define you. It's what happens after that. So the message, I think, is be prepared to put yourself out there, but also be reflexive on what you hear, and then take the best bits and move forward. It made me think and reflect a lot about my career of failures and how it actually sort of stumbled through to where I'd been, to be considered something of a success, to actually be asked to give a talk to others on my journey. And I think this project sort of rang the same bells in terms of its title, Failing Forward. I think that's a key thing. You're always moving forward. Yes, everyone takes a stumble at times, but if you trip and stagger, you tend to stagger forwards generally rather than backwards, so I think that's important.